Opposition to the war protesters is a mighty force.
Minnesotans through the ballot box will again have an important and critical voice on November 4th, Election Day. On this edition of Democratic Visions, we'll be looking at issues, important ones, that local mainstream media, television, radio, and print tend to ignore. Bill Sorem is a retired ad agency executive. Bill is a videography reporter with the Uptake, the independent nonprofit video news service headed by Mike McEntee.
Are some of the foreclosed homes being involved? Or people?
Bill is often the only reporter videographer to show up for a demonstration or press conference.
We are a nation of laws. Well, my reaction is...
Bill and I talked about this problem in late July. Now, Bill, I've been concerned because a lot of people-level protests around town, demonstrations against war for Palestine, Gaza, they never get covered by the major television stations, the Star Tribune, or by MinPost. But you are there. Are you frustrated with that?
Yeah, a little bit. It's kind of fun being the only one, but then on the other hand, it's just, these people deserve coverage. They deserve a voice, and I get a few of them out. And I've been part of the protesting crowd for over the years, and been used to shouting and that, and being on the other side, you see the frustration, and they're talking about serious stuff.
So you are an activist video journalist, right?
I guess so.
I just wanted to, we actually have a lot of constituents who come in here with personal information. So if I could ask you to wait outside the office suite with the video camera.
Why are you walking out of the federal court building at 4:30 in the afternoon?
Well, we just...
Who are these people? I mean, they're not our enemies, are they?
Well, the first real experience I had in this was with Occupy, when I was covering that. And I was there the very first day, and I said, this is really something. And what happened, this is a bunch of young people. Although Polly Mann, at age 92, was there along with some 6-month-old kids. But they really scared the hell out of the establishment. And they were really frightening. They weren't, throwing rocks or any physical damage, but they really scared the hell out of the administration and the Wall Street and so forth. And I saw the coverage just slip away. This is not to be talked about anymore.
In the major media.
Yeah. This wasn't to be talked about in the major media, and the foreclosures, the sad stories that came out there, and again ignored by the media. You'd have cases where 25, 50 cops were surrounding one house with 3 people in it. And the one time when they stormed the police line and then stood and sang songs to them. And so it's a mixture, and the part that encouraged me was all these young people and the younger voices, and they're mixed together with Marie Brown, for example, has been running the Peace Bridge walk every Wednesday for a little over 15 years. The Peace Bridge links Minneapolis-St. Paul and Marshall on the St. Paul side and Lake Street on the Minneapolis side, and it is officially named the Peace Bridge. It was named that in 1991. And Marie Brown has been out there with people every Wednesday, no matter what the weather, and often 15, 20 people. A couple of weeks ago, we had like 300, and no media coverage of it. Recently, 1,500 people marched up in Columbia Heights on the edge of Minneapolis. 1,500, that's a lot of people. And the issue was the bombing of Palestine by the Israeli forces. And 1,500 is a big crowd of people. And they had permission of the police, and they did block the streets. They turned around. It was a mixture of all sorts of ages, and it was just the fury, the terror, the passion that these people had. It was some Palestinians, Somalis, Jews, Catholics, Presbyterians, who knows? It was a lot of people, a lot of little kids. And it was the outrage about what was happening in Palestine.
Well, we're here
here because we're here to support Palestine. And you simply don't even have to be Muslim to be here. You simply have to be human. Because what Israel is doing to those kids is just, as a mother, it breaks my heart.
Hi there.
My grandmother was Hungarian, and her entire family perished in World War II in Hungary. And this can't happen in her name.
And when I followed him down the street with my car, it was about 2.5 blocks of a full car lane width of people walking down about eight blocks. Not a word in the mainstream press.
Were you the only camera person there?
Actually, 2 other independent video guys there. None of them from the major media. They're all individual owners. I have a bit of an outlet with Uptake, but these 2 guys are on their own.
What's wrong with our local news media? Why aren't they covering this stuff?
Well, I think there's a couple of answers. The one that the more vehement protesters say is that the Zionists control the media and will not allow anything to be contrary to the programs of Israel. And I think that's part of it. And part of it is it's hard to deal with. You know, they don't want to talk about the babies with their heads blown off. And the one series I saw of a sniper took him 3 shots to kill a 12-year-old kid on a beach in Gaza. The kid's laying there flopping around, and he shoots him twice more, and he finally they don't want to talk about that. And so what happens is that people get angry. And so far it's all been very, very peaceful. There have been some civil disobedience, but the people are hurt because they're not being listened to. Governor Dayton goes out to a synagogue last week and apologizes for Palestinian rockets and whatnot. Supposedly there were 1,000 people there. The paper, Star Tribune, reported that. They reported there were 1,000 people there and that there were 20 protesters outside. Well, you know, a couple of days later, there were 300 over in St. Paul, 300 protesters.
Demonstrations have been part of life in America since the 60s. Have demonstrations had their day? Do they have much effect anymore? I mean, it seems like a lot of these causes, whether we agree with them or not, aren't making a dent with the demonstrations.
I think in some ways they have run their course, and people are getting used to seeing people on the streets, and you know. But I ask anyone to go out and walk among these people, and I ask them, why are you here? And the 80-some-odd-year-old nun told me that I have to be here. You know, I'm doing this for myself. I have to be here. I can't let this go. And even young people say, you know, I can't let this happen. I have to be there. And that's the voice that is so rarely reported. You know, we will report the violence, but the humility, the passion, the sincerity of people saying, no, we don't need to do this anymore.
Same-sex marriages have been legal in Minnesota, and you covered a lot of those demonstrations.
Well, the demonstrations on same-sex marriage and on the voter ID issue, I think, really did make a difference. The sincerity and the intensity of feelings came through, and some of them were covered by the major media, but I think that people who paid any attention to what was going on saw a quite different story than they had before. The Archbishop's DVD did a lot to help because that really offended a lot of people. Yeah. You know, these are people, these are ordinary people. In the case of the gay marriage thing, you know, these are your friends and neighbors. These aren't, you know.
Well, the same could be said for the anti-war demonstrators, for the pro-Israel demonstrators, and for the pro-Gaza demonstrators. They are all people in the end.
Opposition to the war protesters is a mighty force, but the opposition to war protesters is a military-industrial complex that Eisenhower and so many have warned us about. And wars make way too much money for these people. They're very highly profitable.
Sure.
It's self-preservation is the most important thing. It's far more important than the well-being of the United States. Protesters simplify things, and we're dealing with complex issues. And I'm not suggesting that they should make them complicated, but, you know, stop the war now and Peace Now and the rallies and the chants simplify what is a very profound issue.
But it's needed.
Yeah, it's needed. Yep. And I'm out there because I have to be.
Democratic Visions is independently handcrafted by lefty Southwest Suburban volunteers for the entire metro region.